morning. Today I'm wondering, are you afraid of anything? Do you have any big fears? When I was a kid, my biggest fear was of heights. I didn't like to be up really high. I didn't like roller coasters for the same reason. I didn't like to be up somewhere and look down. That gave me the creeps. I just was afraid of heights. They scared me. And when I was in high school, I signed up to go on a rock climbing and high adventure trip with my youth group at church. And I really liked my church and I really liked my friends at church. But I think that when I signed up for this trip, I tried not to think about the fact that every day we were going to be doing rock climbing and high adventure activities. So I just didn't think about it. And I went on the trip and I had a really good time with my friends. But there were some days where we did things that were really scary for me. Like really, really scary. Because this was my biggest fear of heights. And there was one particular day where we did something called rappelling. Now, maybe you've heard of rappelling, but if you haven't, it is basically where you have these like ropes on you and you're wearing a harness strapped to your body and you walk backwards off the edge of a cliff. No, I'm serious. You walk backwards off the edge of a cliff. And so those ropes in the harness, they're meant to keep you safe, right? Like somebody is holding them, they're tied to something. So you're not gonna just fall off the cliff. But still, you're walking backwards off the side of the cliff. And then your job is to kind of climb, kind of bounce down the side of this cliff. And it was, at that point in my life, the scariest thing that I had ever done, ever. And if you look, you can see a picture now on the screen. This is of me and my friend Tom, and we were rappelling partners. So we did this cliff rappel together. And you can see behind us that beautiful view, but part of why you can see that view is because we are up so high and we are going to go down. And what you probably can't see in this picture is that maybe 2 minutes before it was taken, I was crying about as hard as I've ever cried in my life. I was sobbing. I was terrified. The whole way up to get to this top of the cliff, I was just like crying and terrified and my whole body was like shaking. I was so scared. But I think I also kind of knew I was going to do it. This scary thing, I was going to do it. And so sure enough, I got to the top and they hooked me up with all the stuff. And then we walked backwards off the side of the cliff and I lived to tell the tale, okay? Wow. So the reason I've been thinking about this experience this week is because this week's lesson is a little bit similar. And in this week's lesson, we are looking at a story of Paul, who we've been learning about in our series. And Paul was telling the Christians, telling people in a city about Jesus. So he was bringing new people to Jesus. And there were some people in that city who did not like Paul. They did not like what Paul was doing. They did not want Paul to tell people about Jesus. And they decided that they were going to hurt Paul. And so Paul needed to get out of there to protect himself. And so Paul's friends did something that was really brave, and Paul did something that was very brave. And so I've brought a few things with me, okay? And so we have Paul. Is this what you thought Paul looked like? But this is our Paul for today. And they put him in like a basket. And I don't think I said this. This city, it was walled completely all the way around. It had these big tall walls which were meant to protect the city, but it meant that you couldn't just walk out anywhere. You had to walk between the gates of the wall or you had to go over the wall. And so Paul's friends, they put him in a basket and they got a really strong rope and got my baby gate here. They lifted Paul and they lowered him with the rope, let's do this carefully so we don't hurt Paul, over the walls of the city so that he could safely climb out of the basket and scurry away. And so when I think of Paul in that basket being lowered, it reminds me a little bit of my experience being lowered down the side of a cliff. And one of the things I kind of like about this story is there are a lot of really awesome stories in the Bible that are so great and we can learn so much from them, but we can't always identify with the experience, right? Like, I've never built an ark like Noah. I've never been born in a manger like Jesus. So sometimes those stories might feel hard to really share that experience, right? But this experience, I feel like maybe I can think of some of the things Paul might have been feeling. Like, he's in this basket and maybe he's worrying, what if the rope breaks and I fall? What if the handle of the basket breaks and I fall? What if my friends lose their grip on the rope and I fall? Or, what if somebody finds out that we're doing this and I am not able to escape in time? I think that if I were Paul, I would have had a lot of these fears swirling around in my head or been a little worried about those things. But Paul trusted God. Paul trusted God, and God protected Paul. And Paul's story wasn't finished. God used Paul for many, many more opportunities to share Jesus with people after that day. God was not done with Paul, and God protected Paul. And so maybe you haven't been rappelling down the side of a cliff, but maybe you can imagine how it feels to be scared of something and how it would feel to try to trust God in that scary moment. Because like Paul, that's something that we can all do. Maybe not while we're in a basket being lowered over a wall, but do you go through hard times? Do you have things that are scary? God wants us to trust him in those moments. God wants us to lean on him and trust in him that he is always with us, always looking out for us, always wants to care for and protect us, and we are not alone. And so this week, I hope to encourage you to think about those things, to think about the ways that you can put your trust in God. And so I want to encourage you to check out our Kids at Home lesson this week, where we're going to learn more about this story. And that's really it from me for today. So have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye.